Morning, Nana. Hi, Michael. How you doing, mate?
Hey, how's it going? I added on Bali Forages account, right?
Yeah,
My
yeah, yeah.
personal.
Sounds good.
Okay. All
That's
right.
perfect.
How's it going, man?
Yeah, it's going good, mate. Early start for me this morning. Bit of a weird one. I have a day every so often when got loads of admin on, and I'm normally like pretty good with my evening routine, and like I'm an early riser. I get up early in the morning, and then just every
Right.
now and again, like the admin will build up, and I'll just wake up at 2 a.m. I'll just be like, I need to work.
Yeah,
And
mine's racing.
yeah, yeah, mine's just going crazy. So I had that the night before last, and it's actually the best time because I get like 5 hours of just like quiet and get loads of work done. But then the day after that's always a bit of a weird one for me. So like this morning I woke up at 8 a.m., which is like super late, late for me because you'd messaged me and I was like, shit, we're late for the live. But yeah, we're all good, man. How's things with you?
Early riser as well. Is that sorry, is that
Yeah, well, I bet it's hard not to be with the sunshine out there.
oh
I got
man,
you
yeah.
back.
This especially yeah, is that better?
Yeah, yeah, all good.
The wet season. We're just kind of at the tail end of the wet season here in Bali, so it's been raining not too bad, but you have those mornings where you're like planning on having a beach day and then like the storm rolls through.
Yeah,
And you're like, all right, well, that plan's washed, but you know, back
yeah,
at it
well,
again.
well, it's
Yeah.
worth it. It looks absolutely lovely behind you there. I'm the wind. I can look out the window from here, and it's grey as. But spring is
Yeah.
starting to break through in the UK, so it's good.
Maybe that's why there's a lot more and more people from the UK and Bali these days. They're trying to escape those
Yeah,
gray winters.
yeah. A friend of mine, he was like a PT at the gym I trained at before everything got locked down. There was like a window of a week maybe where the restrictions on travel got broken in the UK. They were like, oh, people can fly
Right.
now. So he's like looking for flights to Bali. Realized he couldn't get a visa, so he just flew to Stockholm because they had different weird
Yeah.
rules. Waited in Stockholm
Yeah.
at home for a month, and he's out there now. He's training at Nirvana Strength, which I think you
Okay.
do some training there now and again, right?
Yeah, I haven't done any training there, but I know lots of people, Dom and a few others that train there quite a
Yeah,
bit. So yeah, it's an awesome gym.
yeah. It looks like a really cool spot.
Yeah, man.
All right, mate. Well, let's get into it. So, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Um,
anytime.
sort of for everyone watching, the reason I wanted to bring Michael on, he is the founder of Bali Forages, which is a company that makes beef jerky, isn't it? And then organ
Yep.
meat capsules, and you're working on a load of other cool stuff. If I missed anything off,
Right, just a whole range of nose to tail products.
yeah,
Yeah, so the idea kind of started with beef jerky and then kind of morphed into this whole other project,
yeah, okay, cool,
kind of as a COVID project. We can dive into that. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. And you
yeah.
do it all based off a farm. It's called Little Spoon Farm? Is that right?
That's one of our partner farms.
Yeah.
They're just doing vegetables at the moment, but we have another
Okay.
partner farm, yeah, that's just doing all of our animal products up in North
Okay.
Bali. So where we're based, if you can imagine Bali kind of as a diamond, we're in the kind of southwest corner.
Uh huh.
It's a relatively big island. So our farm, we actually toured yesterday, is about 2.5 hour drive from where we are directly north. So yeah, we were stoked to be able to go and visit that and then hop on a live Instagram live with you and just talk about that a little bit because it was just incredible. Everything we hoped for and just the picturesque coconut trees, mango groves,
Yeah.
cows pasturing. It was just amazing.
So is this where all your cattle are? The cattle you use for the beef jerky and the organs and everything. They're all based at that farm.
Right, yeah. So everything is going to be locally raised here in Bali and in
Amazing.
Indonesia. So that was
Yeah.
kind of like the business school of ours. Um, so I can kind of jump into the company background if that works for you.
Yeah. Well, do you want to say a little bit
Yeah,
about kind of like how you ended up in Bali, how you got into what you're
yeah,
doing now, and how the company's grown?
yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a long story, or not really long, but so I'm coming up on my seventh anniversary here in Bali. It'll be 7 years in April, and I was kind of one of those expats that, you know, you buy the one-way ticket, sell all of your belongings, and then just move overseas. It was, you hear that story quite a bit nowadays, but I feel like I was a pioneer back in the day. Old man I am.
Doing it before it was cool.
Yeah, before it was cool, before Instagram. So yeah, I was, you know, fed up with my job in finance, just like, you know, sitting behind a keyboard every day. And I was like, okay, I gotta get out of this, and did some research, started saving, and then just ended up just kind of like selling all my stuff. I think I brought one carry-on bag my first time here to Bali,
nice.
and was just planning on staying a month, and then kind of like bouncing around Asia and Australia, using Bali as a home base, and then ended up just kind of falling in love with the place. I found like a great community through the CrossFit community. There was like one gym at the time, and just like loved the community, the people here, the culture.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna stick this out for a little bit, and you know, 1 month turned into 7 years.
Just on that, like if that was the state of play when you arrived 7 years ago, because that scene's exploded, because you see so many gyms all over Bali now, really cool looking gyms.
Right.
So there must be so many people like yourself that sort of got over there and thought, right, I'm going to launch a business, and you know, why not? With looking at, you know, the scenery in the background there, it looks unbelievable.
Yeah, I think there's a very strong expat community here in Bali. So there's a good like network to just bounce ideas off people and learn from people that have kind of like paved the way. Those people were long here before me. So I don't even like calling myself a pioneer, because there's like some OGs here in Canggu that have been like here for 15, 20 years. Like, but yeah, the scene has completely changed, because the one CrossFit box that was there was literally surrounded by rice fields. And where it is now is just covered with shops and, you know, busy, you know, traffic everywhere. And the whole scene's changed quite a bit. And it's great, you know, for the local economy, but I've kind of like removed myself a little bit and gotten further out a bit, just to kind of reconnect with nature, and just kind of live, you know, outside of the tourist area.
Yeah, it looks more, because so I've been to Bali with my girlfriend, and you know, you'll know how hectic it is. It was one of the most scared I've ever been for my life, like driving a scooter around Bali, capital, you know, like the main cities is just crazy. People mounting curves and flicking in between cars. It's madness. Like what you've cultivated for yourself is more like, you know, when you see the film The Beach, and like people think of traveling, that's what they think of, right? They're like out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like hippies living in huts, and but that is genuinely what it looks like when I look at your stories.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm still not fully removed from society, but like that's the plan eventually, I think. But a funny story though. Like when I first moved here, like Bali, I think when you first move here, it kind of tests your mental strength a bit, because there's kind of like a saying with expats, just like the island's either gonna like accept you or like reject you.
Yeah.
And
sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. Like trial by fire. And when I first got here, it was like, first thing, like the airline lost my bag. There was like some stuff going on back home, and then I like got in a motorbike accident, like my first day on the bike. And I'm like, man, this place is just not for me. I'm like, I'm not cut out for this. Like, I'm from Southern California, you know, everything's just like squeaky clean. But I was just like, okay, I'm gonna push through. And it ended up, you know, being amazing. Can't see anything different.
From when you first landed, how long was it before you sort of moved out to the farms and started working on the business idea and all that sort of thing?
Right. Yeah. So the whole, you know, Bali Forages is pretty recent. I was doing a technology startup before. And we were just getting ready to launch in Bali here. It was in the events and tourism space. Yeah. And COVID hit, and like the business was just, it was done. It was like, we were just, you know, not moving. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I got to do something. Like, I'm not just gonna like sit here and wait. I'm not one to just sitting around and like
Yeah.
twiddle my thumbs. So I've always been into, knowing where my food comes from, and you know, eating as local as possible.
Uh-huh.
And then I've also, grew up spearfishing in California. So I've always been kind of like wanting to be as connected to my food as possible.
Yeah.
So this idea, like it's been kind of like a long plan in the works. Like 5 years ago, I had this mission to be like, okay, I'm either going to hunt or like grow my own food.
Yeah.
And all these, the stars were kind of aligning. My tech business was kind of like fading away, but other things kept happening and aligning where I was like, okay, this is kind of like the direction and purpose I need to follow.
Yeah.
And, the beef, so we started with beef jerky essentially in our villa, and we were just making it for our personal use. I say we as my business partners rather, we were
Okay.
just making it in our villa because we were like, okay, we know where this beef's coming from. It's good quality.
Yeah.
We know we've been here so long sourcing our own food and vegetables and all that. So we're like, okay, this is good quality stuff. And I was just like posting stories on my, Instagram, and, all my friends were like, hey, how can we get some? And we were just
Yeah.
making it in our oven at the time. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this might be like an interesting COVID business to pursue
Yeah.
as we're
Yeah.
just like stuck here in Bali, like not doing anything. Um, and, yeah, so we just started selling it to our friends, and it kind of grew word of mouth. And I've always been interested in nose to tail eating. Like, started doing it here a while ago. Just as you do here in Asia, it's very common just to eat nose to tail. Like, people
Yeah.
don't bat an eye.
Yeah.
You go to California, for example, where I'm from, and people are like, "Oh, you're eating what? You're eating organ meat?"
Yeah. Well,
And
it's still that. I suppose they've still got that like ancestral. They haven't grown out of that, ancestral habit of,
right,
using the whole animal. Whereas in
right.
the Western world, it's like muscle meat. That's the like prized cut, and it's rare you'll
Mhm.
go into a restaurant and see liver or kidney or anything like that on the menu.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's mostly out of necessity. They're like, okay, we're going to utilize this whole animal. And
Yeah.
obviously, this is the most nutritious part is the organs. They're like, why would
Yeah.
we throw this away? Like,
Yeah.
even, ancient indigenous cultures, they were like, okay, the muscle meat goes to the dogs. Like, we get all the organs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a luxury,
Um,
isn't it? Exactly. It's a
yeah,
luxury for them. The organs is considered a luxury for them, and on the flip side, it's kind of a luxury of Western society that we don't have to utilize the organs if we don't want to.
right.
Although people are starting to realize, well, if we do, it makes us feel a way better. But we can
Yeah,
get by without including them in the diet.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, so the business kind of progressed. I was like, trying to get ancestral supplements and heart and soil, these, products that are really popular in the US.
Yeah.
And just shipping them here to Indonesia was so costly. And I was like, well, I already know the farmers here where we're getting our meat, and like they have
Hmm.
organ meat, and like I know a facility that has a freeze dryer, and like all these, like everything was just kind of aligning.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why don't we just like add this to our beef jerky line, like nose to tail, everything, like meats,
Yeah.
organs, so on and so forth. So it's kind of worked organically in terms of like sourcing all the products just from being here so long, and we kind of had the network to kind of launch it just with our local community here,
Yeah.
and just started building it word of mouth, and
That's so cool,
now
man.
we're shipping all over Indonesia.
It's amazing because it's
Yeah,
so funny how many parallels there are between your story and my story. Like, I used to work in finance, got
yeah,
completely sick of it. Similar sort of background to you, where I grew up in Wales, so like kind of like out in the sticks. My cousins had farms, we'd go visit every summer. So that concept of like, seeing a cow and then like knowing you're eating it, that wasn't, that's so alien to a lot of people, right? They never
right,
see where
yeah,
their food comes from. And I had that sort of relationship every summer when I'd go to the farm. That would be the experience I was having as a little kid, so I kind of grew up with it. It felt natural to me.
right,
um, and then working in finance, just unhappy, realizing I wasn't aligned with my sort of like life's purpose, or something didn't feel right. And then
Yeah.
I went traveling with my girlfriend, which is when we, part of that was we went to Bali, and I just realized I need to be doing something else, and started
Yeah.
like diving back into my passion, nutrition, and this sort of thing. And the idea for the company started to form. And then our first bar I created in my kitchen in London, in my flat.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing, just like I was making them for myself because I was trying, I was like, I want to play around with the ketogenic diet.
Mm.
Started playing around with the ketogenic diet, and I was like, you can't have any snacks when you're eating this diet. So
Yeah.
made my own concoction in the kitchen of like this bar that I was freezing in the freezer, and I'd eat one every day. I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that hits my sweet cravings. I'm still in ketosis, blah, blah, blah. And then friends would just come over and I'd just give them one. People were like,
Mm.
it's amazing. And this is like all real food. It's organic. Like there's nothing like this
Right.
out there. And then we just started, okay, maybe we should start selling these. And it's exactly the same as you. Just started growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
And then from being in this space of like paleo and, appreciating nose to tail, and like I try to get liver in every week and blah, blah, blah. And like you, I saw ancestral supplements in the US and saw like, oh, that's such a cool product line. I wonder
Yeah.
if anyone's doing that in the UK. And there's one other company doing it, but no one doing it with UK meat. So I was like, right, okay. Went and found a farm, found a freeze drying facility, found a powdering
Yeah.
facility, all that sort of stuff. So it's such a similar story, man. Really cool.
Right. I think that's the way you should grow companies, right? It's like instant feedback. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you sell it to your immediate friends. Like I always consider, like we consider ourselves customer number one, right? Like we want to,
Yeah.
are we gonna consume this product?
Yeah.
And okay, if we approve, then just like yourself, like we're into health, wellness, and we're not going to sell anything that's BS. And
Yeah.
you know, we're thriving off these products, and then we're selling it to our friends, and they're thriving, and then
Yeah.
they tell their friends and friends, and it just kind of snowballs from there.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful way to be, man, because like you see so many companies now. And I didn't realize this when I got into the sort of health food supplements industry. I was like so naive, right? I thought everyone that had a company was like me and you, who were like super into health and fitness, had like got real passionate about a certain product, and it had started selling, and then it's grown organically.
Yeah.
But there's then when you start looking for manufacturers. So when I started looking for manufacturers for my bar, manufacturers are turning around to me and going, what, like you've already designed the product? Normally people just turn up, like a millionaire turns up with like 10 million pounds. He goes, right, I want to make a supplement company.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think there's a gap in the market. And he says, design me a protein powder, make me a creatine, make me a bar. And then
Yeah.
there's just these companies that they literally will design the whole product line, the branding, everything. And this guy will just hand over the money. And then next thing he's got a supplement company. And that's like the
Right.
reality of how most supplement companies in the West are formed.
Yeah, especially with
So
the influencer kind of like mentality too. You don't even have to be like a millionaire per se. It's just like, oh, I got a couple million followers on
yeah,
Instagram now. Like,
yeah,
I'm gonna start a supplement line. Like, okay.
yeah, yeah. So it's so cool, man, to see other companies like us where it's just like they're passionate about something, and ultimately they're making the products that they're seeing a gap in the market. They're like, I want this
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely.
Make it for themselves, and then it's so good they can start selling it to other people.
Yeah, that's the best thing. I mean, one of the things, like you said, like I'm so happy you guys found a local source in the UK for your beef, because what we want to do is like support regenerative agriculture, number one, and
Yeah,
then support the local economy and farmers,
yeah,
especially now with COVID. Like I think 80% of the economy relies on tourism in Bali,
yeah,
but it's one generation roughly removed from most of these people were living off the land, farming, agriculture, and then this tourism boom hit, and everybody got into hospitality. But I think a lot of them are realizing, hey, like we got to get back to our grassroots,
yeah,
where farming, agriculture.
yeah,
So we're happy to support the local economy and farmers. Buying everything locally here,
yeah,
and just supporting as much as we can.
yeah,
Because Bali's been hit hard with COVID, and during the just a lack of tourism.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's the biggest industry in Bali, right? It must be tourism.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for a time, it feels like a ghost town in some parts. Like you
Yeah.
go to Seminyak and Kuta, if you're familiar with those areas, and just like you're driving through and you're like, whoa, it's like this is scary. There's like nobody here, and it's usually
Yeah.
just booming area.
I bet it's quite kind
Um,
of nice in a way, though. I saw it was like a story when lockdown first hit, and it was in this little town in India, and someone had just videoed this bizarre-looking animal walking through the street. They thought it had been extinct for like the last 15 years or something, and
yeah,
just within a week of lockdown, it was just like wandering through this main street in India.
right. Yeah,
Um,
there's similar stories here with the monkeys. Like usually the monkeys are kind of isolated to certain regions, but like they've been seeing them like closer to the beach where they're not normally at, and I
yeah,
think they're just kind of looking for food.
yeah, they're loving it.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah, it's on that point of local farming as well, right? This is kind of a little bit of a mad story, but there's a company in the UK called Pasture for Life, and they're like a
mm,
third party, and they go. It's similar to like an organic certification where they'll, you can apply to be a Pasture for Life farm. So that means
mm,
your animals graze outside for as much of the year as possible. Like in the UK, it's not realistic for them to be outside year round because it gets really cold
right.
at some points, but they've put thresholds and they say, right, your animals need to be grazing outside on grass for X amount of years. So that certification. So when I wanted to do the product, I went on their website and they've got listed all the farms, all the butchers, and it's like a bit of an old school website. So it's like hard to work out what's a farm,
Yeah,
what's a butcher. So I just started at the top and just started ringing everyone. And I had an idea in my head of like how much organ meat I needed to be able to do like a first run of the product.
mm,
And everyone was going, oh no, we can't hit that. Like we got nowhere near that. And but I get like 3/4 of the way down the list and I see a farm in the village where I live, right? So I phone
mm.
the farm and he goes, oh yeah, we can do that. We can do quadruple that if you wanted. I was like, unbelievable. I can
Yeah,
see the cattle from out of my window. I literally can
awesome.
see them out of my bedroom window. It's mad.
Yeah,
So we're
jeez.
going there. I'm just waiting for the weather to break now, and I'm going to go there with my friend Peter, who's a videographer, and we're going to film the farm and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
It's really
awesome.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I love it. I mean, stuff like that, you put it out into the universe and it just kind of like comes back at you. Like, okay, I need
yeah,
to find some grass-fed free-range cattle here. Oh, look out my window. They're right there.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking when you were talking about,
Yeah.
you were trying to do this other business, you stepped away from finance, and then it just seemed like everyone was pushing you towards, no, come on, Michael, you need to be doing this, mate.
Right.
Stop trying to do some like sensible job. You need to be doing something like off the wall.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if it's even that off the wall, just like everything just clicks. It just aligns with all my values as just like a person,
Yeah,
business, personal everything. So it's just I don't know. It's just working out, and
yeah,
it's exciting to see it and watch it grow right now, and watch it grow organically, and then hopefully just start expanding and throughout Indonesia and kind of grow the message of regenerative agriculture and nose to tail eating.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%, man. It's
Um,
like, what you guys do is really cool. Like, I think the branding and everything, and it's a matter of when, not if, it'll just grow, like, I'm sure of it.
yeah.
Um, One of the questions I wanted to ask you, so having gone to the farm yesterday, like, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? Like, is it like biodynamic farming? Are they rotating crops? Is it just cattle? Are they farming vegetables? How does it work?
Right. So the partner farm we're working with has about a little over 100 farmers in a co-op.
Okay.
So each kind of family has two to four cows, give or take,
Yeah.
and they are all they've been in business. This co-op's been in business since 2009, and they have like very strict policies. If a farmer kind of goes outside of this range, they're banned for life. Like they don't mess around.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you raise the animals this way, or you're in or out. And they see the benefit because, you know, they're doing regenerative agriculture where they're rotating the cows every like 4 days,
Yeah.
pasture raised. A lot of them are in different yeah, like different groves. Like the farm we visited yesterday, there was all mangoes growing
Okay.
and coconuts. So
Yeah.
they're kind of like rotating around that area. They're also raising goats, chickens, uh, and ducks,
Okay, cool.
pigs as well. Well, a few pigs.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, you get a lot of biodiversity of these animals,
Yeah.
and then they're obviously growing all the local fruits and vegetables that they're using, and they're just amazing biodiversity with plants and animals. And you look at the soil, and it's just like it looks alive. Like the whole area is just so vibrant and green.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a typical cow pasture that you would maybe see in the UK or the US, for example,
Yeah.
because it's more like agroforestry because there's like so much biodiversity. You're like stepping around, and there's like insects and reptiles and cattle roaming, and it's just amazing. It
Yeah.
was
That
everything we can
sounds amazing.
imagine. This was the first time we actually stepped foot on the farm physically. We'd obviously done our research and been working with them, but it was just like great to see it firsthand,
Yeah.
and just speak to the farmers, and just like tell them, or them telling us like how much this has helped them,
Yeah.
because you know typically a lot of farmers here in Indonesia they're growing a lot of rice, and corn, so a lot of monocrops, and you know, obviously that like isn't the best for the soil. It
Yeah.
just strips all the nutrients as you just grow the
Say the
same.
least.
Yeah, it's just say grow the same crop over and over again. So, you know, these farmers, they're, you know, understanding like, oh shit, we can, you know, grow a bunch of different types of plants and vegetables and fruits, and our yields are much higher. So
Yeah.
they're making more money.
Yeah.
So like this is kind of like a snowball effect within the farming community. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, like we're growing this way. We're making a lot more money than you. Like you gotta come on board here.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So yeah, it's kind of like this word of mouth effect. And they're like, okay, all right, well, I'm on board. Like, what do I need to know? So
Yeah.
there's this whole educational process. We're like, okay, this is how you need to farm. This is what you need to avoid, you know, pesticides, herbicides, all that stuff. So it's a great community that they've started, and we're just trying to kind of grow that within Bali.
That's so cool. A friend of mine messaged me the other day. I'm drawing a blank on the book, but I know you've recently read it as well. Diana Rogers and Rob Wolf.
Yeah,
What's the book called?
Sacred Cow. Yeah,
Sacred Cow. Yeah, Sacred Cow.
right.
So my friend messaged me the other day, and he was like, "There's a section in the book which talks about how organic farming and non-organic farming, the nutritional value of the meat is pretty much the same, right?" There's a
Right.
section in that book, and he was like, "You know, you always tell me that buying grass fed is you know more nutrient dense, and they're you know in the book they're saying that, but they're saying you know it's minor." And what I came back to him, sort of my rebuttal to that is, well, it depends what type of organic farming they're looking at, because there are organic farms where they're using organic chemicals, organically approved chemicals.
Hmm.
They've just got one type of animal or one type of plant they're still growing on the area. And then there's biodynamic farms, which are like exactly what you're talking about, right? Where they're
Right.
rotating the animals, they're rotating the crops. There's a massive different array of life in
Yep.
one vicinity. And the difference with that is, the animals, when they're dying or when they're shitting on the soil, they're fertilizing the soil, and you're getting this array of nutrients which, when you're using chemicals, all that's doing is killing the biodiversity of the soil.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, plants can't grow unless you use these chemicals.
Right.
And then on the other hand, you've got a situation where the animals are naturally rotating and fertilizing its own soil, and the soil's getting richer and richer. And when you've got a circumstance like that, I'd love to see studies of people comparing, the nutrient density of the food from a farm like that with the nutrient density of food from, factory farming, and then even, chuck one of those like single organic farms that just focus on a couple things in there. And I'd like to bet there would be a massive difference in terms of the nutrient density of the food from a farm like, that you're working with.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be an interesting study. And I think just looking at the big picture too, it's not just like one animal and the nutrient density of a grass-fed cow versus a grain-fed cow. It's just like, how can that cow contribute to the overall ecosystem?
Yeah.
And when you strip those big ruminant animals off of land, like that's not helping anybody. Like you need these animals to naturally kind of like put carbon back into the soil, eat the grass just to manage the topsoil there. And when you get into big agro farming monocrops, like they're tilling the soil, ripping out all the nutrients. We had this problem in the U.S. back in the 1930s with the big Dust Bowl, right, in Oklahoma, where they were just tilling and growing the same crop over and over, which is mostly like corn, and it's caused this massive drought. It's because you basically ripped out all the biodiversity. Nature has this perfect little formula, and you came in and just like disturbed it all. So regenerative agriculture is basically like the best bet to kind of maintain this natural ecosystem.
Humans need to realize, right, that the earth has got it worked out. We just need to work out how we can fit into their model, rather than like, we know better and trying to change it.
Right, we're trying to like mess with millions of years of evolution here.
yeah, exactly. And that's a really good point you bring up about the carb, because I see sort of an argument from the vegan community a lot of the time where they say, it's methane from cattle is, destroying the planet, adding to greenhouse gas emissions and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
And I think that there's a big difference between methane from cattle and like methane from like fossil, basically using fossil fuels and stuff like that, because the methane from cattle is actually being recycled in the atmosphere and being turned into rainwater, being turned into carbon, and coming back into
part of the
soil.
natural system, right?
Yeah, it's part, and this has been going on forever. So there's a distinction there which doesn't tend to get made, but it's kind of a key point.
Right. Yeah. They kind of like take the points or the data that they want to use and somewhat, I'd say, manipulate it. But you're releasing fossil fuels that have been underground for millions and millions of years, and once those are released, like you can't keep up with bringing that back into the natural swing of things. But the methane that's released from cows is just part of the natural cyclical cycle. So when you remove one of the key elements, then you get in trouble.
Yeah, and I think the other point that tends to get missed as well is you see all these percentage figures chucked around, like ruminants and cattle get the bad rep for producing X amount of CO2, and that it's more than from transport and blah blah blah, but people don't take into the consideration the full life cycle of something, right? They don't say that. I think I saw a stat the other day that when you take into consideration the amount of sort of fossil greenhouse gas emissions which are created as a result of creating a car, then the life cycle of the car running around and then destroying the car, it's compared to like the life cycle of a cow start to finish. When you look at it in terms of that, the greenhouse gas emissions from ruminants comes down to like 3.9% of overall, and I think from cattle specifically is about half of that, about 2%. Which is just and that's the real world figure of what's going on. There's no cherry picking data or anything like that there. That's just like, well, if we look at the whole picture, this is the reality of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to take into consideration even like the electric cars, zero emission electric cars. It's like, okay, like where are we getting these rare earth materials that are like powering these batteries? Like they're not just appearing out of thin air. So there's always going to be a cost with anything, but demonizing cattle is just kind of insane to me.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at North America that used to have millions of bison roaming the plains back in the day.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's I think there's more ruminants roaming the planet back in, the pioneer days than there are today. So
Yeah, it
it
wouldn't surprise me at all.
yeah,
And I think the distinction as well is good for us to make. Is like me and you, we're not talking about factory farmed animals. We're talking
yeah,
about animals
absolutely
that are
not. Yeah,
living completely as natural a lifestyle as they would be, in the
right.
wild. Because
Yeah,
I'm not an advocate of factory farming whatsoever. I think that's something that needs to be stopped. And people doing stuff like yourselves, where not only are you focusing on your own regenerative farm, but like you said, the farms around you in Bali are realizing, wow, this is actually a better way of doing things, like probably how their great grandparents were doing things,
right.
and let's start reversing it and doing things the right way. And you're seeing it in the UK as well. It's becoming more and more popular. There's a company called The
Yeah.
Ethical Butcher in London, and they're on a real big push for.
Mm,
They did the whole Regenerate. I think the Regenerate idea that was their sort of creation, and
initiative. Okay.
talking about they're putting a lot of information out there, like exactly what we're talking about the real CO2 numbers in relation to cattle and all this sort of thing. So there's
Right.
more and more farms all the time trying to get back to their roots and do things the right way, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's farming is kind of a lost art, and thankfully, farming is pretty recent here culturally in Bali, Indonesia as a whole, because their their probably their parents, grandparents were farmers. Just they come from the land. Everything that they ate was either something they grew or raised themselves or bartered for. So
Yeah,
it's not ancient history. Like, this is a very recent history that
yeah.
they can get back to very quickly, I think.
Yeah, well, there's
Yeah.
probably that's the thing. There's probably if they go and have a chat with their great grandparents, if they're still around, there's probably still some like ancient wisdom there they can
Yeah,
pick up on and
absolutely.
start utilizing straight away.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
100%.
Mate, watching the clock here, we got 20 minutes left, so I kind of wanted to dive a little bit into
Yeah.
your product line a little bit. So currently you've got the beef jerky and the organ meat capsules, which are equal
Right.
part heart, liver, and kidney.
Heart, liver, kidney, spleen, and pancreas. So
Oh
kind
wow.
of the goal is to utilize as much of the animal as possible.
Yeah.
So we'll be releasing a few other products as well. So we got the beef jerky. So we have the classic, just pepper, and then the chili. Probably release another flavor here shortly.
Cool.
Then the organ capsules. And then, yeah, so we're gonna be launching a bone broth collagen that we're freeze drying.
Amazing.
We're just deciding if we're gonna either capsule it or make it into just a powder that you can add to, like, as a tea or coffee or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, which yeah, we're not. You can do the hydrolyzed like collagen from basically the cowhide, but
yeah.
we kind of want to avoid the extra chemical processes that go into that. We don't
Yeah,
want to
for
make
sure.
it as more, most natural as possible. So
Yeah.
we're basically making these big stocks of bone broth,
Uh,
and then simmering them at low heat, and then taking that gelatinous material and then freeze drying it, to help preserve all those nutrients and make them more bioavailable.
Oh wow,
Um,
that's amazing. So, because I've seen there's certain companies that sell it as like a paste, and then
yeah,
companies that sell it as a powder. And I've always wondered like how they do it. But I suppose if you just cook the material for long enough, it will just turn into that paste naturally.
right.
And then if you freeze dry it, then you can powder it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is just making it shelf stable,
Yeah,
so we can just have it ready to go. Just
yeah,
put it and mix it into any hot drink that you want.
yeah,
So having it in a freeze dried form, it can the shelf life could be years essentially.
yeah.
Um, so we have that coming out. We've just sourced some goat colostrum, which is
Amazing.
which is the pre-milk for that most mammals make. Because as an infant, you don't have the immune system built up yet, so the mother has to kind of pass that on to the child, or the calf or goat,
Yeah.
in our example. So it's kind of, this very nutritious liquid that comes out, and we, sourcing it from our same farm. It's all pasture raised.
Wow.
So we'll be freeze drying that and capsuling it, just to take it in a daily form.
Yeah.
And then what else? Oh, we're freeze drying some oysters, for a zinc supplement, which is great for energy and everything else. Zinc
Yeah.
is
Things like
powerful.
the C's oysters are like the C's multivitamin, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So that we found a great source here, that we want to test out, and people were asking for it, and we found the source. So it's like, okay,
That's a cool
we got the
idea.
freeze dry. Yeah.
'Cause it's similar to organ meats. Like I try to include oysters in my diet once a week, but it's such an easy one for me to go, oh, no, because I'm not a huge fan of eating them. Some people love it,
Yeah,
but
same. I know some people love them. They have them every Sunday for brunch, and I'm like, oh, they're a little slimy for me. And
yeah.
I love seafood, but it's just like a little hard to swallow.
Yeah. Mate, that's a great idea. That's a really good idea. And I saw as well on your story the other day you were doing the was it tallow crisps?
So we got just the tallow as a cooking oil. So we'll sell
Yeah.
that just in a basic jar, that you can either as a substitute for cooking oil, or
Yeah.
cooking oil essentially. So it has a very high smoke point, so
Yeah.
it's great to cook with. Yeah, and we're making just we have a lot of like minced beef and stuff. So from our cows that we're raising, so we're gonna make these like beef crisps or chips essentially. So we're making them almost like a round little chip, and we've been testing them just here with our team, and like we literally like we'll finish them in a day. I think we finished a kilo in like one day with like 4 people. Just kept like shoving them in our mouth. They're
But
delicious.
I saw your story of them just like roasted in the oven or whatever the setup you've got, and I was just
Yeah.
drooling drooling
Oh
watching the
man.
story.
Yeah, and they're just crunchy. It's like the perfect texture, because jerky, it can be a little bit chewy, but like this is just like a perfect little snack.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Uh,
so is that kind of like your roadmap at the moment, that you're going to just work on like rolling all of those out, and then I suppose go from there?
yeah, right. So we're just speaking to our supplier, and basically like figuring out what kind of products we can create from the cow to utilize as much of the animal as possible. Because
Uh-huh.
one of the big issues worldwide is food waste. And
Hmm.
a lot of these, less premium cuts are just kind of tossed to the side. So we're just trying to
Yeah.
get, creative, and figure out what kind of products that we can make.
Have you thought about doing brain? I saw Ancestral Supplements have started doing brain.
Yeah, we actually thought about mixing that into our beef organ supplement.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to kind of test the market and see how receptive people are to eating
Yeah.
brain. We actually just got all of our nutritional test results back. So everything came back negative for like all like heavy metals and E. coli and any
Amazing.
bacteria and stuff. So we're going to be doing that regularly, just to
Cool.
make sure everything is up to par and up to our standards.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in seeing that actually, because we're just going through exactly the same process here. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what
Right. Yeah,
yours.
I know you were interested in that. We literally came in like I think 20 minutes before our call.
Okay, great.
So I was like reading through it. I'm like, okay, yes, okay, everything I
Yeah,
wanted is here.
yeah. Well, the thing is like when you're getting meat from like as good a source as you are, and the same with me, like you can be like pretty certain that you're going to be sweet anyway, but it's just nice to have that like confirmation, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And after seeing the cows yesterday, I'm like, okay, these are the best raised cows I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like, okay, yeah, there's not going to be any issues here.
yeah. So the final thing I wanted to touch on is just going back to the organ meat capsule supplement you've got. So
Yeah.
just like we've been getting like unbelievable feedback so far in terms of
Mm,
people saying their mental energy is up, and their overall like feeling
yeah.
of well-being. And it's like unsurprising really. Like we had someone who has been taking them who suffered with anemia, and they're like, I just feel a million times better. And I'm like, well,
Right.
liver's full of all the B vitamins, which contain folate, which help you create red blood cells, which help you transport oxygen around the body, which is exactly the problem when you've got anemia, you know? So, yeah, I was just wondering if you had any sort of like, any success stories of like people, you know, using yours, or if they, and how you can relate that back to any of the specific nutrients or any of the benefits of any of the different organs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's been pretty overwhelming, the messages I've been getting, like just personally, and then just from, you know, our community, just increased energy, better sleep. A lot of people complimenting like their skin just feels more vibrant. But the energy is like the biggest one. Like, you know, I got a message the other day and like, I feel like Superman. Like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, exactly. Especially if somebody, you know, that's eating more like processed food diet, or like, you know, not eating like as healthy as they intend to. And then they're just taking this huge dose of nutrients. They're like, oh wow, okay, this is what it feels like.
Yeah. And I think what people don't realize as well is like a lot of people will take a multivitamin, right? But that multivitamin is full of synthetics. Whereas when you're taking, you know, organs, which are effectively like nature's multivitamin, it's the most bioavailable format possible. So that means your body can utilize everything you're taking in. So it has much more like real impact than a standard multivitamin would.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, all the amino acids mostly align with, you know, human DNA. So it's like very comparable to what we need as humans to thrive. And the freeze drying process makes it the most nutrient dense as possible, keeping everything intact. So it's like bioavailable. You get everything, you know, that nature intended, just right, you know, from the source.
Well, someone said to me the other day as well, they were like, right, what's the difference between me taking these tablets and me eating a plate of liver every week? Well, I was like, well, first of all, it's got heart and kidney in as well. Secondly, because we're freeze drying it raw, that means like all the nutrition's maintained, nothing's getting denatured through the cooking process. And then when you're eating liver once a week, you're getting a hit of nutrients, but then your body's going to assimilate, utilize those nutrients. Whereas if you're taking 6 capsules every day, it's like you're constantly topping that pool up. So it's like you're going to spread those nutrients throughout the week. So and if you look at Western A Price, who are kind of like one of the gold standards for Paleolithic eating, and they put a lot of good information out there, their recommendation is 200 grams a week, but ideally you want to split that into around about a 30-gram portion a day. Well, how many people are going to cook, you know, 10 grams of liver, 10 grams of heart, 10 grams of kidney every day? It's not realistic. But you can take these tablets and you do pretty much exactly what they're telling you to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a convenience thing. A lot of people just don't like or have the time to cook and prepare, you know, organ meats, which do take a little bit of a prep time. You can't just, a lot of people just don't have the palate to just consume organ meats. Like, I mean, I don't mind it, but like, it's so much more convenient just to be like, okay, here's six capsules, easy, done. Don't have to think about it.
Well, I like liver. Like I was raised eating liver, so even when I take the capsules, I still have liver a couple of times a week. But heart and kidney, I just can't handle. Like I can eat them, but it's a task. You know, I've got to psych myself up for it.
Yeah, I don't mind the heart too much. It's we actually have a really good heritage pig supplier here, and we had sourced and roasted a massive pig for our little Bali family here a couple weeks ago. Nice. And we just made a little liver pate and sauteed the heart, and it was actually delicious. I was like very impressed.
Yeah.
So
well, again, I think it's like if you know how to cook it, if you know how to prepare it. Exactly. I don't know if you follow Anya. I can't think of her top name. It's the lady that runs Bel Campo Meats in the US. She's like very big into all of this. And her Instagram's just a gold mine of how to cook all these unusual cuts, how to braise stuff correctly, you know, how to make different types of bone broths, and, you know, what herbs to put in to neutralize this and that. She's like a genius. So I think if she cooked me a bit of heart or kidney, it would be a lot more palatable than me just like butchering it in the frying pan.
Right, like a caveman. Yeah, you'd be eating it every day.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, awesome, man. think we've covered everything I was looking to cover. Is there anything else that you wanted to sort of speak about?
I think that's pretty good. Do you want to see our team mascot here?
Yeah, go on. Let's go.
She's sitting right next to me. Let's see if she's friendly here. She's probably hungry. Oh, here she comes. There we go.
Mate, can you get the eyes of the cameras? The world's cutest bird.
Hold on. There you go. Oh, she just took a big shit on me. But, yeah, so this is they call it a common or spotted kestrel. We rescued her probably like 5-6 months ago.
Yeah.
But I used to train or study falconry back in California, and then found this little girl at a market, and they were keeping her in like this small paper bag, and I was like, well, I can't have that happen. So I took her in and started training her. So she's living her best life.
Mate, she's absolutely beautiful. How old, do you know?
I would say maybe 7 or 8 months. Oh, she's gonna flex.
She's gonna take off.
Yeah. I'm gonna put her back down.
I'm assuming she's gonna get quite a lot bigger.
No, actually, so the common kestrel is quite small. So that's about her full size. She's only about like 70 grams. And yeah, we had it's crazy because we had this big aviary, they call them Muse for falconry, and I was going to train her one day, so I had a bird with me, and she's very unreceptive if she's not hungry.
Yeah.
So she's got to like, you know, have a reward system to like fly to me. And I come into her cage and looking at her, and she's just like looks all proud and like has her chest puffed up, and she's just holding this massive like monitor lizard in her talons, and she's the tail is the only thing left, and she had eaten the entire thing, and I'm like, holy shit. Like this monitor lizard had just snuck into her cage.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, training's done for the day.
She's like, look, I did it all by myself.
Yeah, she's like, look, Dad, look at me. I'm all grown
Mate,
up.
that is so cool. So what is the plan would you even be able to release her back into the wild, or is that not possible?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't, just because she's not indigenous to Bali, that she's from Java. And yeah, I think the plan is just to train her to hunt with me. So she's pretty close. She's flying like over 10 meters right now. And the plan is just to get her used to catching her own prey. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
Mate, that is the coolest pet on the planet.
Yeah, man. Oh, I'm obsessed. Like I want to get another one.
Where does she live? Does she keep it in the house? Like, what's the situation?
So we have like a little falcon aviary for like they call them Muse. So she's got like space to kind of roam around and flap her wings, and I train her most like daily, so she's getting lots of flight time.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Right, awesome. So, have you got much on for the rest of the day? What time is it over there in Bali?
Just coming on 6 p.m. So yeah, it's kind of winding down.
Hey, nice, mate. Well, it's not. It's coming on 10 a.m. here, so I'm just about to start winding up. So,
right, man. Awesome chatting.
Yeah, same, mate. And we'll definitely do this again. Like, I think both our businesses are kind of growing at a similar rate, you know, at similar speed. So if we check back in 6 months or something like that, I reckon we'll have a few more products and a few more things to look at. So let's keep going with these.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Have a wicked rest of your day, okay?
Yeah, man. Talk to you soon, Josh. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.